Good evening. I'm Rockland County Executive Ed Day, and welcome to the County Executives Forum. This is a regular and routine program that we do in order to get the word out to our citizens in Rockland County about the various things county government does for you. Typically, this show covers different departments that we have in Rockland County, which truly is of an interest to everybody, obviously, but we're going to change it up a bit now because we have changed the way we do things in government over the past 3 or 4 years now. We have better integrated a variety of community organizations that really do great, wonderful things for you, the citizens of our county. And we're doing this in such a way that we have a hand-in-glove approach with these organizations to ensure the best of services for your tax dollars. Today, I'm very happy to have with me Elizabeth Santiago, who is the CEO of Centers for Safety and Change, located in New City. I'm going to speak a bit about some of the things that they do in service to the community of Rockland County. Elizabeth, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, County Executive.
Good. I'm glad. And I know we've spoke about this a bit earlier. The differences of way things were 3 or 4 years ago, before the commencement of my administration, where funding was given to organizations, and they did very good work. There was no question about that. But the problems were there was no structure to it. Number one, the controller understood the problem, and they were very clear to us in county government by saying that it's important that you have a procurement policy, that there are measures and outcomes that are laid out, and really that's truly what the citizens expect. They expect accountability for the money being spent, and I'm very happy the way this has been working out over the last 3 years now. We have about 3/4 of the funding that was before just conveyed is now structured under departments now, and obviously Center for Safety and Change is one. Could you tell us a little bit about your mission, what you do, just in a general sense?
So the Center for Safety and Change is the sole crime victims assistance program in the county. We work with victims of all crimes. Most people know us as the Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Agency. We work with victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, and all other crimes. So when you think of hate crimes, bias crimes, a burglary, we work with those victims as well. Our mission is to provide the best services that we possibly can to victims of all crimes. And to do that in a very holistic and empowering manner. The beauty of the sourcing that you spoke about a minute ago is that it actually allowed us internally, as well as other programs throughout the county, to be able to look at what it is that they're doing, how they're doing, and to ensure that there's no duplication of services. Mm-hmm. And if there is a duplication of services, where can we collaborate?
Right.
As an agency, we've been in existence now for 38 years, so we've been around since 1979. And my predecessor, Carolyn Fish, who did a phenomenal job in really creating the foundation of the center, actually understood that collaboration and partnership was key. I'm able to actually just expand that more now as the executive director. But one of the things that we do is we look at where can we partner, and government has been key.
Right.
In that. So partnering not only with the Department of Social Services through our Child Protective Service Safe Parents, Safe Kids program, which is a program where the non-offending parents as well as the children are able to receive services through our agency is key.
Right.
Being able to provide services through the Safe Harbor grant, which is also another collaboration through the Department of Social Services, recognizing that the Department of Social Services recognizes us as the experts on human trafficking, mm-hmm. and being able to provide the direct service, the outreach, the counseling that victims of human trafficking need. Last year alone, we worked in this county with 56 victims of human trafficking. Right. Looking at the partnership that we have with the District Attorney's Office.
Yes.
So the District Attorney's Office actually is the ideal example of partnerships, because they understand that their job is to prosecute, and victims need someone to be able to speak to figure out what additional resources
yes.
they need. So we have a crime victims advocate that works out of the District Attorney's Office to be able to provide that service, while the District Attorney's Office is able to prosecute the case. Yep. So those are some examples of the partnerships that we have. That's just maybe 3.
Yep,
I'm sure that I can sit here all day and speak about all of the other things that we do and how we do it.
It's interesting because most people look at an organization doing work and they think of it as in a silo in and of itself, but they don't realize until now we can actually have a chance to speak to people about it, is that we have organizations now that are integrated so well. Like I said, with social services, with the district attorney, with probation, for example. There are a lot of county agencies that are now working together, and I know people are going to love to hear this part of it. By making this move to have more, our organizations within line of the county departments, especially for social services, there's a lot of funding that comes from the federal government. We have saved $1 million over the course of this process. That's $1 million less money being spent. That's how we hold the line on taxes. So we're not only getting the job done through your agency in collaboration with other parts of government, we're getting it done in a more efficient way. We are saving significant amounts of dollars. This is, at the end of the day, is what we're striving for. And I know we have spoken about, and those of you probably do know, my background is in law enforcement. I spent, almost 25 years in 2 departments. I had command and executive background in 2 police departments. And the one thing that I think every cop is sensitive to are the victims. While we understand that the rights of the accused are paramount in the system, there's a general belief by most in law enforcement not enough time is spent helping the victim of the crime. And people who have been victimized understand this. People look at burglary as a non-violent crime. Well, that may be true, but I would challenge anyone who has had their home invaded and they come home and there's no interaction with the perpetrator. You come home and you have your house ransacked. You've been violated. So, the diminishment, the perceived diminishment of the crime always troubled me. So, when we ended up getting a little closer together once I came into office, we spoke about a number of the issues that you have challenges. And we obviously partnered up very effectively because of the background I had in law enforcement and the demand that we should have of ourselves to do the right thing for victims of crimes, because they're truly the ones who need it. There's plenty of legal services available for the accused, but all too often the victim is left alone.
And I think that that's a perfect example. And I do think that it's because of who you are, but 2, your background in law enforcement, especially focusing on the area of domestic violence, for example. I think that has played a significant role in how we look at things. There's a collaboration that happens up in North Rockland where Detective Goyaso goes out to the houses of anywhere that there's a DIR, a domestic incident report, to make sure that the victim is okay. He does that in partnership with our victim service, our special victims advocate, which is key. That's a perfect example. The same with CPS. So CPS goes out because they have to do an investigation, but they recognize that the non-offending parent may need services.
And this is Child Protective Services.
Exactly, Child Protective Services in Rockland County. Those are perfect examples of partnerships. Tax dollars are going to pay for the CPS worker, the Child Protective Services worker, to do their investigation. Our job is to go and make sure that the victim is okay. Our roles are completely different, but there are state dollars and federal dollars that are able to come into this county as a result of that in order for us to do that partnership even better.
Right.
So making sure that victims receive all of the services that they possibly can and need. You mentioned the burglary victim. The traumatic experience of someone who's been burglarized, every time they come into their home, and again, after that burglary, is never going to be the same.
Yep.
They're going to wonder, is there someone in my house? Has someone been in my house? Those are all conversations that we're able to have in terms of the advocates at the center are able to have with people. Probation is a perfect example. We've taken on looking at how the DV court parts, the domestic violence court parts, operate in this county, and how IDV operates, the Integrated Domestic Violence Court operates, and really looked at the fact that having an advocate that's dedicated to being able to do that work has allowed us to really re-examine what are we doing in terms of stakeholders.
Right.
Are all the players coming to the table? Is the police talking to the victim service entity? Is the police talking to the district attorney's office? Is the district attorney's office talking to us? Is probation at the table? When you look at that approach, that multidisciplinary approach, as a county, we are actually providing the best services collaboratively to the citizens of this county. And I think that that's really been key, and it's allowed us to be able to play a significant role. One of the things that I very much admire of your administration is your commitment to wanting to keep services in the county.
Right.
Now you look at other counties and they're transporting victims from their county to a different county to be able to see a sexual self-forensic examiner, for example, or to be able to, in order to have a rape kit done, or to be able to speak to a counselor or receive therapy or counseling services in a different county. Your approach has allowed for all of those services to remain here.
Right.
We don't want to be an inconvenience, and that's what you've actually said to us, to our local citizens.
You're victimized once, you won't be victimized a second time.
Exactly.
Right.
So that approach has been very, very significant.
Thank you for that, and it's important because not only do we provide a better service, in my view, the service is local. That means people who are local are working. We keep our dollars in Rockland County, and that makes for a more vibrant economy. And when you, and this is why I'm glad you're here today, because and we went beyond the department approach. We have an agency now coming in, and this is the first time it's ever happened, so I'm great to have you here.
Thank you.
And the fact of the matter is, when people hear this, there's a better understanding of where your tax dollars going to. And we need to be, in government, the precise stewards of the money we take in as from taxpayers. That's just the way it has to be. I'm a relatively chintzy person at home, and I like to try to apply that to the budgets here in Rockland County. But when you look at what the money's being spent for, we're talking about people being victimized and abused in their own home. They feel trapped, or obviously most of the time it's a woman. Child Protective Services, and this is something that's extremely personal to me. I was involved and engaged in putting together a child abuse programs in both the Clarkstown School District and also in the department, police department. When you look at a child being victimized, I mean, how do you not do something to make that right, to do something to protect that child? Elder abuse, another which, I'm 65 now, I have to be a little careful, but I mean, elder abuse happens all too often. So I mean, this is where the tax dollars are going to, and to those who wonder, is it being done efficiently, you're speaking to it perfectly, and I think most people have no idea the amount of collaboration and the amount of different departments and organizations that work hand in hand to bring service to the community. I know one program you have is a SAFE program.
Yes.
Let's speak about that for a little bit.
So our SAFE program is our Sexual Self-Forensic Examiners program. We do this in collaboration with the District Attorney's Office, as well as with Nyack Hospital and Good Samaritan Hospital, the two local hospitals in the county. So when a rape victim shows up to the hospital, and or if a call comes into the police department and they're bringing a rape victim to the hospital, it's almost ingrained in the DNA of the hospital. They pick up the phone and they call us. And we actually, at that point, dispatch a sexual self-forensic examiner nurse, and we also dispatch a rape crisis counselor.
Right.
So they serve two different purposes. The sexual self-forensic examiner is there for the purpose of being able to do exactly that, collect the forensics that are needed to either prosecute and or so that the chain of evidence actually goes from one person to the other in a certain manner.
Critical in a trial, as I'm well aware of.
Exactly. Last year alone, in 2016, we performed 57 sexual self-forensic exams. That's one too many. That's more than one a week.
57 too many.
Yes.
And if you think about it, these are 57 women who were violated in the most horrible way imaginable to anybody.
And they were both men and women.
Right.
So the stat is that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men report having been raped at some point in their lifetime. Those are all way too many numbers. It really should be 0.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that we very much appreciate from the hospital's perspective, as well as from government perspective and law enforcement perspective. the district attorney's office has been working really, really hard to prosecute these cases.
Tom Zugabe is a tremendous partner in so many aspects. The
Yes.
opioid epidemic, particularly criminal victims here.
Yes.
He's been an able partner. He really has been.
And he really has. His approach for prosecution is incredible. We don't always love the results, but that's something, and it's not on the district attorney's efforts as much as it's the system.
Yes.
So the beauty of having an advocate there from the beginning is that we're able to explain from the very beginning what's about to happen.
Right.
The beauty of having one of our sexual assault forensic examiners there is that they're the ones who collect the evidence, turn over the evidence, and then testify regarding the evidence.
Right.
So it actually costs the hospitals less because they're not losing doctors to have to then go and testify in court. It's a savings, and it's also a very victim service approach and client-centered approach to being able to ensure that the victims aren't being transported to other counties to have this test performed.
And you made a very good point. And from my own experience, I had one very horrific case of a young child who was killed by her family, and we had to have the doctor come down to the trial because he had to tell us with medical certainty certain things. In this particular case, we don't have that standard of proof necessary. We have counsels who can accomplish a lot for that victim. As you remember from the outset, we spoke about how much time is spent protecting the right to the accused. Now, because of this effort of your organization, our DA, the administration, we are now bringing that service to those who truly are the victims of that crime and in need.
And that is key. To be able to get to a victim right when they're victimized is essential.
Yep. Now, I know we have something called the Spirit of Rockland.
Yes.
You want to share a little bit about that?
So we're very, very excited about the Spirit of Rockland on so many different levels. First of all, it costs the citizens of Rockland minimal dollars because the approach was to get services donated in order for it to occur. So the Spirit of Rockland is the Special Victim Center.
Right.
Throughout the country, it's known as a Child Advocacy Center. District Attorney Zugabe did not want it to be a child advocacy center because he saw it as more than just the children. It's a multidisciplinary approach. You have the District Attorney's office present there, you have the Special Victims Advocate, you have Child Protective Services, you have the detectives, and the goal is really to re-traumatize a victim as little as possible.
Right.
So a victim comes into the center, everything happens at the center, they get to speak to one person, and everyone else gets to hear from the other side of a mirror, so that this person isn't telling their story to 5 or 6 different entities. So it's a wonderful approach. It's the best approach, and we've had some really successful prosecutions that have come out of the Special Victim Center. There's also Lily, the therapy dog, and everyone loves Lily, the therapy dog. But it has been a very, very successful approach. It's been so successful that I believe that there may be talks of maybe having to expand it to a second floor. But we are in Suffern, and it's on the grounds of Good Samaritan Hospital.
And this is Lieutenant Mary Murphy?
Yes.
Yes. Mary's family and my family are very, very close, and she's a tremendous advocate.
She is.
Really is.
Her approach has been very, very significant. And Lily, the therapy dog, just adds to that. There's a fish tank. Everything about it is a very welcoming approach.
Yep. And we have also one thing that's important to speak about is recruitment of volunteers.
Yes.
How does one apply to be part of this wonderful mission?
So one of the things that we ask, we rely on volunteers significantly. We wouldn't be able to do what we do if it weren't for the staff and the volunteers. So the way you would apply is you would go onto our website, centerforsafetyandchange.org, and you would select volunteer, and there's an application. You fill out the application and you send in the application, or you can call our number, our office number or our hotline number, 845-634-3344, and speak to Cindy McMurtry, who's our Director of Volunteer and Community Relations.
Okay, that's very good. Now, of course, this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month here in Rockland County. We proclaimed that.
You did, and we thank you for that. Yeah. We had the proclamation at the very beginning of April, and that was very significant. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is key for so many different reasons. You've agreed 2 years ago to be part of the No More campaign that we did, No More Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault in Rockland County. It's a commitment that we will continue to hold perpetrators, that we will continue to train and educate others on how not to perpetrate this abuse.
Right.
A lot of people like to ask the question, why does, what was she wearing, or do the victim blaming. The beauty of what we've spoken about is that it's not about blaming the victim, it's about teaching people how not to perpetrate.
Right.
So our training and education programs in all of the high schools in this county has been successful, because what we're teaching people is what dating violence looks like, but we're also teaching what consent looks like.
Right.
It's recognizing that if you know what consent looks like, you won't perpetrate, because you'll know what's right from wrong. And it's domestic violence and sexual assault is a socialized, and it's been socialized and normalized.
Right.
What we're trying to do is take away those normalizations and break the socialization of it, and really get to the point where we're recognizing that the more we educate and the more we do prevention work, the less intervention we'll all have to do later on.
Well,
and for that, we're very thankful for your commitment.
Something we spoke at length about, a couple of the crimes. One of them, obviously, sexual assault, which is, again, it's difficult to imagine beyond murder a more impactful crime upon a person.
Yes.
And the effect that can be so long-ranging, whether it be a woman, male, a child. Child sex crimes, some of the most horrific things I've ever seen in my life. And I really was very engaged as part of the abduction prevention curriculum in Clarkstown back in the 90s, taking some of the skills I learned as an investigative commander in the NYPD and applying that towards a safety program for children. But when you've seen the victims of these crimes, it leaves an indelible mark upon you. And on my view, I've been blessed to be in a situation now as a county executive to be able to be an agent, to make some good things happen, and have an organization such as yours and so many organizations out there that are doing such wonderful things for the people of Rockland. It's a contribution, I think, back to the people who've gone through horrific things. So I appreciate the great work that's been done. And even we talked about domestic violence, and we chatted about that a while ago.
Yes.
That from my perspective as a detective commander, I could not understand having unsolved cases when it came to domestic violence. I mean, the bottom line is we have a victim, we know who the perpetrator is, and I had expectations of my detectives. Back in those days in the 90s, the courts would not proceed without a willing victim. So we were left to, at times closing a case by what's called exceptional clearance, that we knew who the perpetrator was. We were able to place that person under arrest, and for reasons beyond our ability, we could not proceed in court. And typically that was a partner, a victim who was not going to go forward. But what we did in addition to that was utilize whatever resources we had back then, which are nowhere near what we have now, to make sure that that victim understood that this is just not a paper chase. You need to understand, you need to help yourself. What tools can you have to make sure you're not victimized a second time? So the case clearances of my command usually hovered around 100% because we approach it that way. Now we have an ability, by applying that same focus on the crimes now, to move forward when a victim is really so traumatized that he or she cannot go forward.
So this county is actually very fortunate. As a county, we've worked really, really hard for many, many years to have the Stop Fear Coalition, right, which I co-chair with legislator Harriet Cornell. Mm-hmm. And through that, we have subcommittees. And for 19 years, we've had the Criminal Justice Subcommittee put a conference together every October on how safe is our community. And it's about making our community safe. And I think that one of the things that you said was really, really key, and that comes from the leadership of District Attorney Zugaby. He believes that victims, it's not so much that they don't want to cooperate with their process, but the majority of the time they're just not able to cooperate for their own safety. So he pushes for evidence-based prosecutions, and that's what we're looking at. And that approach has been really turning the tables on how we're dealing with cases. I mean, there's the batterers program in the county that holds men accountable through VCS. That's another way of like those classes for batterers to go to. But all of those are the players who are at the table.
Right.
Probation, the police, the judges. We teach at the police academy, and part of that is really we start that partnership from the very beginning. I guess my key word for the day is partnership. For the evening is partnership
and collaboration,
yes.
and recognition of the dynamics of the crime. And we are talking about crimes here. Let's make no mistake about it.
Yes.
These are criminal acts being perpetrated upon innocent people. Now, the one thing I want to ask you is we got to close in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
If somebody needs help, who do they call?
So they call us. They call the Center for Safety and Change. We have a 24-hour hotline, 845-634-3344.
Could you repeat that again?
845-634-3344, 24 hours a day.
I always ask that because I picture myself at home running to get a piece of paper and a pen. I always say, can't you tell me that number again? But anyway, Elizabeth, I want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
people learned a lot about what their tax dollars goes to and how it protects innocence, which is exactly what we're talking about here. So I appreciate the work you do, the mission of the organization, and I thank you for that. And to our folks at home, I hope you took away some positive things from the discussion, which obviously covered some areas that we wish not to even think about, but we have to. We have no choice. There are victims out there. Some in our own families, some are our next door neighbors, and we try in county government to do what we can do to make this place the best place to live for all of our residents. And we have a lot of partners, as was mentioned earlier, in that process. So with that, again, my office number is 638-5122, 638-5122. Should you have any concerns about this or any other issue that you're encountering here in Rockland County, with that, I want to wish all of you a good evening. And again, this is your Rockland County Executive Ed Day. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.